I'm Amanda Rose, founder of the weight loss community Eat Like a Bear. I personally have lost 140 pounds and I've maintained that weight loss for 3 years. But more extraordinary, my viral weight loss case has driven over 100 people to lose over 100 pounds. Our rate of success may be historic. What if I told you that a simple, free structure that I implemented in my life 15 years ago is what set me up for success to lose the weight and to maintain it? Would you want to know what that was? It is what I call the good day strategy, and you're starting to see some discussions of this in the community because I've really highlighted it in the new book on the cooked ridiculously big salad. And that's this number one meal framework that's driving the success that you're seeing is the ridiculously big salad. The new book is the cooked version of it that follows the same framework. And what I talk about is that a key reason for the success of those meals is, they're nutritionally on point for weight loss, but the psychology with which we implement it is key. I talk about the implementation of the RBS, of the ridiculously big salad, as what I call the ultimate good day strategy. And so you're going to hear a lot about good day strategies here on YouTube and in the group. And this is that simple free thing that I'm talking about that I did 15 years ago and have implemented daily. And it is a key reason that I was able to succeed. There's many layers of reasons, but this is indeed a key reason. And the basic concept is that you work diligently on your good days to set yourself up for success on your bad days in the context of food. And the reason the simplicity of the RBS is so important, understanding what the framework is, finding your groove in it, is so that you can practice that on your good days, so that you're ready to implement on the bad days. We all know how easy it is on the bad days to let things slip, to make bad decisions, because that's just natural. It is a problem that everybody has. And so here on YouTube, I shine a big old bright light on that. And I did it today, and I did it here in this meadow. And I'm just going to come out and say that a reason I'm doing this video here today, this day, not yesterday, and not the day before, is today, for me, today is, it's a bad day. It's a bad day, so you'll know, you'll see that. So I'm wearing the shades, okay? So I woke up knowing it was a bad day, and I woke up knowing I needed to be ready. And the thing is, the work that I did yesterday, the day before that, the work that I did establishing structures for myself are the structures that help me get through today. And the idea is that if you work more diligently on your good days to set yourself up for the bad day, you will not be as susceptible to the problem that we all face, which is that, sort of falling into the plate for comfort, looking for comfort in places where you shouldn't be, because what you've done is you've established some structures for yourself on the bad days. And we're all going to set different structures for ourselves to some degree because we're all really different people. And this is something you'll hear so much more about too for anyone who ends up in our coaching program, but also in the group, just talking about the good days, what people are doing, what people are trying to do to set themselves up for success on the bad days. Because here is the critical point. This is absolutely the critical point. You know how it is when you're in that bad place and you end up kind of lapsing into those behaviors. Everybody does it. But what if you've so diligently programmed yourself on those good days to think differently? What's the voice in your head saying then? Now, okay, there's always an abundance of voices in our heads, but what if we've really strengthened one of those voices? And that is where you see this strategy shine. And I want to point out to you that here on my bad day, notice I'm not like in my kitchen around the food. In fact, there's no food in the car. I'm up in the complete middle of nowhere. And that was strategic. In fact, as soon as I woke up, I knew it was a bad day. And I knew I needed to just pull out the stops today to get through today. And I really do hope that I wake up tomorrow to a good day. And I'm far more likely if I handle today well. And so what I did is I got in the car and I drove up into the higher elevations. So we live in the Giant Sequoia National Monument, but at about 3,500 feet, and I'm right now at about 7,500 feet. So I got out. And I got to a place where I knew there would be fresh air. I knew there wouldn't be any food. I set myself up to succeed, but I'm going to admit I didn't have a plan for where I was going. I was just kind of moping, but I knew, like, you got to go. You got to go. And so I went. I went. And, I faced a lot of the struggles already today that you would expect. So, up here we have all of this burn damage from the fire that went through here last year. And so as I was driving, not knowing where I was going to stop, I saw, for instance, the Needles formation in the distance, and I thought, wow, that's what I need to do. I need to do the Needles hike. That would be such a great hike, boy. It's a real thigh buster. And so I was ready to drive up onto that road. It's closed. It's still closed because of the fire. And so I wasn't able to do that. I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that. And, it's so easy to get caught up in that disappointment. And especially as I'm looking at all this burn damage and to think of the devastation of the fire and the burn damage. But that voice in my head, that good day voice said, no, 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 no. Look at the little signs of rejuvenation. Yes, it's burned, but it's still awesome. Okay. And so that's like the good day voice speaking. And that's the voice that I've worked to program into my brain. Just like looking out at this meadow, my first reaction was, oh my gosh, it's so dry, because you guys, the drought here in California, it's bad, and you really see it at these higher elevations, and it's very easy to be devastated by these meadows. But then that voice is saying, but Amanda, there is always, always, always something awesome in a meadow. I don't care how dry it is. There's something awesome. Go find it. Go find it. And that's like my yesterday self cheerleading me. That's really what it is. And so then I'm challenged to go find that thing and to go do it. And I've done this so mindfully for 15 years that I really respect that. So I respect that I've deeply programmed that thinking into my brain for a good reason. It's my duty to honor that and to go look in the meadow and to go find the stuff. That's my job today. And I've done this so many times over the years that I already know, if I can push through it, it's like a complete cure. But I have to push through it, and I have to make myself go through that process, that process of finding the stuff in the meadow. And so you see, even after 15 years, it's not easy to do this. And I still have to push myself, but I do push myself. And it's a framework that I really lean on. And this is something that I did in that year of grinding off all that weight. You guys, there were really bad days in that year, and it would have been so easy to lapse. But I had made a promise to myself that I was eating in a certain way. And the way I was able to continually implement that day after day is very much what I'm describing here. So in the books, you'll see, the simplicity of the recipe framework really came out of this mindset of mine. Let me practice this simplicity of eating on the good days. And then I don't have a doubt about what I'm doing on the bad days, because I've really already promised myself, and I implement that thing. That's what I do. In fact, I was about 5 months into my rapid weight loss phase. I was 90 pounds down, I would say, in January of 2018, when I had some very, very bad days, because my dad developed a septic staph infection. He is a heart valve replacement patient, and that's game over in those cases. And it was so severe, I was sure he was dying. I was just sure of it. And there I was, deep in the diet grind, taking my dad to the hospital. In fact, in kind of a funny memory, because, daughter taking dad to the hospital. Dad never wants to go to the hospital. So I showed up to his house. I knew he needed to go to the hospital. He knew too, but, getting him there is another question. I showed up and said, Dad, I am a strong believer in free choice. And your choice right now is, are you going to go to the hospital with or without your pants on? So Dad got his pants on and I took him to the hospital, and he's still in the game, guys. He's still in the game. And this was what now, 3.5 years ago or whenever it was. But we were sure in that process, like within like a day or two of that pants moment, I really thought that was it. That was it. And I can remember those days in the hospital, and I would have the salad. That's what I would have. I was prepared and had that in the hotel. And then I would go to the hospital. So I had my meal and I walked away from the food. So I didn't actually engage in food in the cafeteria. That was probably a good decision. Though, you can buy the hospital food and just draw that boundary. But I had it in the hotel. I took care of business with the food. And then I went and took care of business with my dad. And I really separated those two things. And I do think that separation is a key structure, a key point of importance. But the point that I was prepared for that, I was prepared with a simple meal that I knew would work. I knew was nutritionally, on point for what I needed. So I wasn't, second guessing it and getting all worried about it or whatever. I just took care of business and then went and, went and then just went to the hospital. There were about 3 days of really intense stress, thinking he was dying. And things got a little better after that, but it was still hard. It was hard for a good while. And I'm sure in that week itself that I probably didn't lose any weight, not because I was overeating, but because I was under so much stress. But because I stayed on track and I, kind of kept that rhythm and that groove going, once he was kind of out of that danger zone, I really was able to dive back in and then just kind of keep making progress. So I wasn't derailed at all by that situation with my dad. And that is because of how I handled it in those days. The good days prepared me for those very bad days. So we all have them. I mean, they're different for all of us. And, our reactions to them are different, of course, and because we're going to have different personalities and different reactions to things. And so we really need to get into our own heads and develop the strategies that are going to work uniquely for us. We can give each other ideas. So I hope I've given you some ideas today and more as I wander around these trails or whatever. But it's really something that all of us need to work through. And as I think about how I've structured my life, I am highly aware of the importance of this strategy. It's a strategy that I have not made explicit here at Eat Like a Bear before this video and the Cook to RBS book. But I actually wrote a book some years back on depression, and I had an extreme case of depression in my first pregnancy, and that's Frederick, who you see on hikes with me, and he's 19, so that was a very long time ago. And I actually had an email newsletter that talked about good day strategies. And so it is something that I've really leveraged in my own life, and it's really become second nature for me. So it's not something I've really thought that explicitly about until I was really deep diving on like the psychology aspects of the ridiculously big salad. Why is it that simple matters so much? And that is where I really started thinking more about this framework. Like in terms of the eating, this is a reason that RBS framework is so effective, is because it is extremely simple. And don't see that as so I'm going to just take it for granted, because like these simple things we take for granted. It's very easy to take them for granted. Don't take the framework or its simplicity for granted. Let's shine a bright light on why that simplicity matters, why it matters so much. And it matters so much because you need to learn it like a pro on your good days. And you need to make that your full-time job, because you can't let the bad days get you. You can't. And in terms of depression and the bad days, you guys, it is so clear. It is so much easier to keep yourself from falling down into that pit than to climb out of it. And so when you see yourself beginning to fall, that's when you need to have all the strategies in place to keep from falling in. And that's really what we're talking about here. And in terms of the eating and the overeating, that's exactly what we do. We fall in that pit and then you just get stuck down there eating all the stuff. You can't fall in. You have to set the structures up so that you don't fall in. And it's complicated. There's lots of structures. There's lots of points of psychology in this, but this is a very general one that you can think about that could be life-changing for you. And it's simple, okay? But it's like I've said before, simple to do, simple not to do. Some of the simplest things to do are also the simplest not to do. So obviously, yeah, it's pretty simple to implement some good day strategies. Yeah. But you know what? Do it every single day for 15 years. Do it diligently. Make it part of who you are. That stuff is simple, but it's the do it every single day for 15 years that gets us to winning. And so you need to make a goal like that. I challenge you to begin the steps, to begin putting the structures in place so that you can become a pro at this, so that you can catch those bad days when they come, so that you can keep those bad days from landing you in that pit of depression, and to keep those bad days from getting you fat again, because that's what's happened, you guys, right? That's what has happened with us. And it is a strategy that I hadn't implemented for weight loss mindfully, but it was there. It's a strategy that I used to lose over 100 pounds. Who knew? But it was so ingrained in me at that point that it was part of how I implemented the weight loss. And I do more mindfully see it today as a key strategy for all of us, and something I need to do more mindfully with my eating and with the rest of my behaviors, and that I really encourage community members to do as well. A fire might expose a vintage jar. I mean, that's legitimate right there. Look at that. Pretty cool. I'm smelling it like as if there's really alcohol left in this. This is probably just like dirty rainwater. Who would leave their alcohol behind in the forest? No real smell there. Something I've definitely become aware of is how rejuvenating for me water is. And so I'm always looking for water. On days like this, I push myself to find those little situations. And so there's this nice little creek. It's really dry, but it was a nice little walk to get down here. And as I come down this steep path, I really try to be so mindful of the difference, like how I am so much easier to do this at my current weight than I was before. I'll tell you, 4 years ago, in fact, I came down the same path, but it was so much more difficult. I do try to stay engaged with that feeling, with remembering the big difference, the life difference that this is at 140 pounds. In fact, as I get into this little pond here, I was thinking like, well, what about fish hooks? Or you never know what you're going to find in there. But the thing is, the impact of a fish hook on your foot is far less at 140 than it was at 180. I can tell you that for sure. And so I fear it a little bit less. And getting out of a situation like this injured at 140 is so much easier than 280. So I just don't have to worry that much about it anymore. I still try to be careful. The sand on the bottom of your feet is such great therapy. Just those kinds of differences that are so easy to take for granted. I try, especially on these days, to just really take them in and make sure they're deep in here. Maybe we called some moisture into this meadow. Look at me at the creek talking about how water is so rejuvenating, and coming back to the meadow to find all the things, challenging myself to look past the dry meadow, and it starts to pour. So I will sit here in the rejuvenating rains until I see you guys again, probably on a good day. And may there be many, many more for all of us.